Hi guys.
Hey.
How you doing?
We're doing great.
We're doing so great, actually.
Yeah, so I'm Rory.
And I'm Roni.
And this is what, Ronnie?
This is Have and Have Not, which is what, Rory?
The show where one of us has read a book and the other has not.
And today...
Until today.
So the one that we're doing for this episode, as you can tell, because it is season 2 and we are following the same theme, we're doing Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Woo!
Woohoo! So this is now book number 3, The Titan's Curse.
Which I have read.
And I had not read until now.
Yeah, so Ronnie's going to explain it to me. And full disclosure, I don't remember a lot about this third book.
Fuck.
Because, truth be told, of all the 5 books, the third book was always my least favorite in the series.
Really? It was pretty good.
I mean, all the books are good because it's Percy Jackson and it's good. But the third book, because certain people die in this book, always made me really sad as a kid. So
they came out of nowhere with 2 deaths.
Yeah, so I always got really sad as a kid, so I never really liked this book. But my favorite book in the series, apart from maybe the first one, just for nostalgia, is the 4th one.
Which I'm reading now. Which I'm very excited about reading.
I am very excited to talk about Battle of the Labyrinth, because I remember a lot from that book, because I read it so many times.
And I feel like that's the one where they finally smoochy and there's incest for realsies.
Yeah, okay, well, we have to ignore that, because Rick Riordan gives some contrived reason why it's not incest, and we just go with it.
We? Don't you mean you?
We. The collective we.
Collective, sorry. Mm-hmm. So,
The Titan's Curse, let's talk about it.
In all disclaimer, we are not drinking today.
No, I feel like we don't drink for Percy Jackson as much because it's a children's book.
We can stomach it a bit more.
Oh, and also, yeah, it's actually fun to talk about. I need to be trash to talk about Sarah J. Maas, so.
And so we're not drinking. We're actually drinking coffee. Mm-hmm. But
it's a beautiful morning. But we are going to post a drink.
Even though we're not drinking, you were able to drink with us. This is going to be Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. It makes sure that you don't drink unless you are over the legal age limit for your state, province, region, country, whatever the fuck. And make sure that you're not doing it in excessive quantities, because that's bad mojo. And the gods might strike you down like Dionysus for overindulgence. So that's not great. So just don't drink with us. But if you do, we would not know if you were underage, because this is a one-way auditory medium, baby.
Best bit in the show.
Best in the show.
Yeah. All right. So let's get started, Ronnie.
Couple of sea dogs.
Bark with me.
They just did something really bad, actually.
Did they?
They're canceled.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah, look it up.
Aww. Is it actually something bad, or is this cancel culture bullshit?
Cancel culture bullshit, because they're moving to their own platform.
Okay.
And they announced it, and people were mad about how they announced it.
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, but bark with me.
Bark with me.
All right. So, I'm going off of the fan wiki for this one, the Rick Riordan fandom.com. So credit to them, not to me. I have little comments to make throughout, but basically I'm just going to go, part by part. I listened to this mostly on audiobook while I was driving to and from work because it's such an easy book to get through. Mm-hmm. So I didn't safely have the opportunity to actually write shit down. So, so.
Well, this is a chill episode. Percy Jackson episodes are pretty chill.
Compared to the 4-hour Sarah J. Maas ones.
Look, man, it's not our fault that, first of all, those books are so fucking long and they have so many problems, okay? These books don't have as many problems.
Like most men.
Yeah, like most men.
They're so long. And they have so many problems.
Okay, most men aren't so long, but...
Her men
are. They're fucking loaded. Anyway, go ahead.
So, this book starts off... at Westover Hall. Mm-hmm. Ayo, Westerberg.
Which is another school.
Which is a boarding school, it seems, in the middle of the mountains. Mm-hmm. I got the vibes it was at a mountain range. Mm-hmm. And so we're in December now, which is after Sea of Monsters, and we're with the gang. And the gang's
all here, except they're not.
Except not. So it's Percy, Talia. But it's Thalia.
I think they pronounce it Thalia.
Mm-hmm.
Which I always thought as a kid it was Talia.
It's not Talia, it's Thalia.
It's Thalia.
But I feel like the audiobook narrator voices it kind of weird. Anyway, It's Thalia and Annabeth go to Westover Hall to meet Grover because he's there. And I'm like, is this a dream or some shit? Because all of a sudden, like, Thalia's like their bestie boo when before she was just resurrected, and we're like, oh.
Yeah, recap from the last episode that the golden fleece, like, on Talia's tree, that she just, like, rose from the dead. She's, like, back. Also, my favorite fact about Thalia is that she's a Green Day fan.
Yes, I was going to mention that. I was going to ask you if that's why you started listening to Green Day at the time that you did.
No, actually, that's completely unrelated, but I do remember, like, thinking to myself later when I reread the books as in high school, I was like, oh shit, I totally forgot Thalia was a Green Day fan, because I was obsessed with them in high school. Like, I'm going to see them in concert in August for, like, the third time. I love them. Such a loser.
Such a loser. And Thalia's like dressed in like all black, and she's very much the emo kid.
Yeah.
And her birthday is the day after winter solstice, which comes into relevancy later because when she was frozen as a tree, time froze for her, but she aged slowly, so we think she's at 15 now. So physically she's 15, about to turn 16, which is relevant because of the prophecy. Which comes into
play in this book is when the prophecy's kind of introduced.
So Grover found two powerful demigod siblings there. And the last time Grover found a powerful demigod, it was Percy. So immediately, when he says powerful, I immediately know that it's going to be one of the big three's kids.
Right.
So someone
who's left, you know?
You know? Yeah, but we don't get to that until later. That's like a big reveal or whatever.
Right, because we have Thalia, who's a daughter of Zeus. We got Percy, who's the son of Poseidon.
I remember the prophecy and like the caution. Toby, don't you dare. Oh my God.
He's just chilling on top of the fridge.
Yeah.
So apparently Grover has a knack for finding the big threes.
Yeah,
so.
I know. Because didn't he found Thalia too?
He did. He was Thalia's seeker, and he was Percy's. And
now
I think
Nico and Bianca D'Angelo.
And now Nico and Bianca. I think though that's foreshadowing that Grover is going to be the one to find Pan.
Oh, it definitely is, because he's got some super special secret abilities.
That he has abilities where he can sense really powerful beings better than other satyrs. So I thought this was really cool foreshadowing, even as a kid, that this would an indication
he has the potential.
Grover's going to be the one to finally find Pan.
So Grover's like, guys, I found two powerful half-bloods. And so they go to Westover Hall, and they go in, and it's the middle of a dance. And Grover's like, we got to get them out of there safely, whatever. So they come across the teacher, a resident teacher, and the principal. And so the teacher is easily tricked, but the vice principal, whose name is Dr. Thorne, he doesn't seem like he's easily tricked, but he kind of goes with it because they're like, why are there like three powerful demigods coming to my whatever to do whatever? Like, I'm gonna watch them. So it says Thalia manages not to get the three kicked out because she uses the mist to kind of like disguise. And at one point, it's like, oh, didn't they teach you how to use the mist like this? And Percy's like, no, they didn't teach me yet.
Percy is such a dumbass, but I love him. Like, to me, he's very much in the Harry Potter energy where he's like a really dumbass main character, but Percy is so much more like, snarky and resigned. He's like, bro,
he's like, I didn't know how to do that.
What the fuck? Why would I know that shit?
Like, they didn't teach me. She like, didn't Chiron teach you? And he's like, no.
Like, Chiron doesn't like me, I guess.
I guess. So they meet Grover inside the dance, and he tells them that Dr. Thorne is a manticore, which is a half scorpion, lion, and human monster.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell by the fact that his name is Thorn, and so far every single book has a teacher basically being a secret Greek
animal
monster.
Yeah. And he's suspicious of the two half-bloods' true identity, and therefore he was not fooled by Thalia's trick of the mist. And so Thalia's like kind of taken over as the ringleader from Percy, which is a change of attitude, because even Percy's like, oh, they used to look up to me, and now they're looking up to Thalia. I'm like, fuck. I'm not the cool one anymore. Oh my God. He's just sitting on top of the fridge. Look at him.
Yep, he's doing his thing.
Sorry, my cat's just a little shit.
Which, I get it, he's a kid, but it is kind of funny. It's like, listen, Perseus, Thalia is, first of all, older than you, and second of all, she's the daughter of Zeus. So
Literally Zeus.
calm down. Because literally before Thalia came back, everybody was like, oh man, because the people who know about the prophecy, which we'll talk about the prophecy later, but the people who know about the prophecy,
it's got to be a kid of the big three.
it has to be a kid of the big three, and everyone is almost like disappointed, like, ugh, Perseus, the dumbass, is gonna be the prophecy kid because Thalia, quote unquote, died for a while when she became a tree. So, like, he was the only game in town.
He was the only live one.
Yeah, he was the only game in town, and everyone was, like, low-key disappointed that it was him. So it's kind of, if I were him, I'd be fucking relieved, because even, like, Harry is, like, wishing that the chosen one was Neville, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I was Percy, I'd be so relieved.
But I like what he does at the end where he kind of we'll get to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Thalia wants to, like, create a plot to, like, make sure that the D'Angelo siblings are, like, safe. Mm-hmm. So she formulates a plan to distract Dr. Thorne. However, the plan backfires on them. Percy and Annabeth start dancing, and Annabeth looks like she's going to tell him something super sexy secret, and he's, like, nervous to dance with her. He's got, like, little butterflies or little fishies in his tummy, and so we're assuming that there's, like, some tension that's between them, and even he says, he's like, I don't know if Annabeth's, like, my girlfriend right now, and I'm like, dude, why would she be?
Because he's a kid. I don't know. Well, they kind of act like a couple.
They kind of do.
You know, I get why
And in the Sea of Monsters, they had, like, that whole, like, tension scene under the water, right?
Mm-hmm. Where, well, there's a couple, like, I mean, they act like a couple. Like, they are always, like, checking in with each other. They kind of do everything together. So I kind of get why he would think that, especially as a child, that, you know, because people, I think we're so oversaturated with, like, what's going on in the book scene right now that being in a relationship is like this overtly sexual thing, but in reality there's a lot more to a relationship than that. And even
it's friendship, it's camaraderie, it's trust,
right, like it's clearly more
teamwork.
It's clearly more than a friendship, because they have like feelings that are not totally friendly.
Correct.
But in terms of like how you behave with someone when you're in a relationship, they kind of behave that way.
Yeah. So they're dancing together, and then Dr. Thorne, they see him trying to sneak away the two half-bloods, and he can't see Thalia, Annabeth, or Grover in the crowd, so he follows Dr. Thorne, which bites him in the asshole later. As he nears Bianca and Nico, Dr. Thorne throws a thorn and it passes by his shoulder, and he realizes that poison has entered his system, and he's too weak to fight, and instead listens to the Manticore as he talks about the Great Stirring. Percy tries to reassure Bianca, who's panicking, and Nico, who is both overjoyed and scared, because Nico's into, like, almost like a Titans kind of, like, battle set. He's got, like, cards and action figures and figurines.
Yeah.
And, like,
Bianca and Nico, by the way, are my, my Italian paesani over here.
Yes.
They're the first Italian characters in the book, which love that for me.
So Percy lets Dr. Thorne bring them to a cliff, and they wait for the Manticore's allies to collect them. Percy tries hard to send a message to Grover, because they have this, like, mind connection between the two, and that he's in danger. It works, and soon Grover, Thalia, and Annabeth show up, and Dr. Thorne reveals his true form as a Manticore finally, but we knew what he was. Suddenly, some silver arrow passes Percy, and silver arrow is a sign of Artemis.
Yes, so the Hunters of Artemis come in this book, which is very cool.
Yes, it's very, very cool that we got to see, like, some really good integration of some, like, godly figures that aren't the big three.
Well, you know what I like, though, about Rick Riordan is that he has a lot of characters, but he does a good job at handling them all.
He balances them pretty well.
Yeah, like, I mentioned before I had an issue. Sorry I always talk about SJM, but we just did a lot of her books, so it's, like, fresh in my brain. But she has a lot of characters, and she sucks at, like, keeping them all relevant or characterizing them. And Rick Riordan, it makes sense in his story why he has so many characters, because you're, for the most part, at a camp full of kids. So you have to have a lot of characters for it to feel real.
Yeah.
But he does a good job at, like,
bringing them in when they're relevant.
Right. Bringing them in when they're relevant, like giving them a character trait that you can connect to, where it's like, and because they're kids, you're a little bit more forgiving that they don't have, like, more complex character traits because you're like, oh, okay, they're 12. You know what I mean? Like, what could they possibly? How much of a deep dark past could they possibly have? You know?
Well, Percy's 14 right now.
Percy's 14, but you know the kids at camp can be like Annabeth was 7 when she came to camp.
True.
You know?
So, the Hunters of Artemis, they have some really good bow and arrow skills. So Dr. Thorne,
could be expected.
Yeah, Dr. Thorne tries to volley a bunch of them at them, and they split them perfectly in half, kind of like in Robin Hood, the old animated one, where the guy just splits the arrow in half like multiple times on the bullseye.
Wait, explain what the Hunters of Artemis are.
They're adolescent. I'm getting there, but they're adolescent girls who are dressed all in silver. And I'm gonna explain it when they start to explain it because they're coming in and saving people in a battle. So. Annabeth climbs on Dr. Thorne with her knife, but the hunters release their arrows and he falls from the cliff, taking Annabeth with him, leaving her Yankees cap of invisibility from her mom behind. And Percy's like, "No, Annabeth!" So,
no, not you.
So, Annabeth is dead. Artemis appears and orders the hunters to set up camp, and Percy's invited to come and talk with the goddess Artemis. And she appears in the form of a girl around the age of 12 at this point. And they have to like shroud their true identity because if they don't, then everyone will disintegrate around them. But she chooses to present herself as a young girl.
Right, like we've met Ares and he was like a Hell's Angels biker guy. And like Poseidon looks like a beach bum.
I kind of imagine Artemis and her girls as like the Pied Piper.
I could see that.
Or like Peter Pan, staying forever young.
That makes sense.
It's very much that vibe. And so she asks Percy to restate what Dr. Thorne mentioned and concludes that a dangerous time is near. And upcoming is the winter solstice on Olympus, where they're going to have a vote to see whether or not they should involve themselves for and create an army for the upcoming war.
Right, because remember, Luke is trying to bring back Kronos.
Yes, from the last book. He has Kronos' remains in a golden sarcophagus, and he was trying to use the shroud in order to resurrect him, but
that didn't work.
Didn't work. The golden fleece. So we kind of find out a bit more about the Hunters of Artemis through Zoe Nightshade, who's going to be a protagonist in this book. Her lieutenant is Zoe and is placed in charge of the hunters, and they're all told to stay at Camp Half-Blood. But essentially the hunters are young girls who are skilled in fighting and wisdom and combat and just generally things that Artemis finds dear to her heart. And they take a pledge and they become immortal. So they become immortal and they just live the rest of their days with Artemis in a non-sexual way.
Yeah, well, because Artemis is a maiden.
They live as maidens.
They live as maidens.
So they swear off men and all that fun stuff.
Although Talia gives me bisexual vibes, and they never said
we're not there
yet. They never said that you can't canoodle with your fellow Artemis.
They're young. They're children.
They're teenagers. Okay,
they're children.
All I'm saying is that's not a bad gig.
Oh my god. Anyway. So they're told to stay at Camp Half-Blood until Artemis returns because she has to go out in search of a powerful monster, which has the power to bring down the gods and Olympus. They ask, essentially, to Bianca, "Hey, do you want to join us?" And Bianca's like, "You know what? I'm tired of taking care of my brother." Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sure. I'll be immortal forever, and I'll forsake romantic love forever, and I'll leave behind my brother at Camp Half-Blood. Yeah. Bad idea.
Yeah, poor Bianca.
The group receives a ride from Artemis's brother Apollo, who comes in a sun chariot, which is like actually like a GT Mustang or something. It's like a golden chariot. And they have to close their eyes because it's the sun coming.
Which, by the way, if one day you have to read Trials of Apollo because it's fucking hilarious. The concept is that Apollo gets punished by Zeus, so he has to be in the form of this like ugly like pubescent teenager, and he has to do trials to like win. It's so funny.
Amazing.
And mind you, Apollo in Greek mythology is supposed to be like one of the most beautiful of all the gods.
Yes, he is.
Because he's the fucking sun god.
Okay. So he is like, oh shit, they can't fit into my coupe. So he has to convert it into a school bus, and he's like, hey, sister, because Talia is actually Artemis's sister, because Artemis and Apollo are direct
Zeus's
children of Zeus, and so...
And technically they were demigods.
Before ascending to
before
godhood.
They became gods, so...
Yeah, so he's like, hey, sis, nice to meet you, glad you're not a tree anymore. Do you want to drive? And Thalia is like... And we don't know why yet, but we'll find out later. But so she drives this sun chariot to Camp Half-Blood, almost crashing in the canoe lake. Yeah, so we love that. So Percy and Thalia lead Nico to the big house for a conversation with Mr. D and Chiron, because remember now Bianca's with the Huntresses, so she's kind of forsaken her demigod status. It's actually like rude to ask like what they are before they were Huntresses, because it doesn't matter. And the two are quickly forbidden to carry out any rescue plans for Annabeth, which Percy is pissed about, and Dionysus says there's only a small chance that she would survive.
Which, honestly, Chiron, go fuck yourself, because, like, she was, like, Chiron's golden girl, and
Yes.
he's like, oh, yeah, fuck Annabeth, let her die.
He's probably had so many golden kids over the years that all die, though, so it's like, it puts into perspective, like, the relationship that these gods and these immortal beings actually have with mortals.
Yeah, that he really ultimately, like, is like, fuck her, she's dead.
They're blips in their lives, which is absolutely crazy to think about now.
Yeah, it's so sad.
And Chiron is
Percy's
like...
indignant. He's like, the fuck? What are you
He's
talking
like,
about?
that's Annabeth we're talking about.
He's like,
And Chiron says that there's going to be a friendly game of capture the flag. And friendly is in massive air quotes because it's not going to be...
There's no such thing.
No, and it's a tradition between half...
That was too perfect. Nice.
It's a tradition between Camp Half-Blood and the Hunters to have a friendly, quote, game of capture the flag whenever they reunite. And so Percy's like, shit, we're going to get decimated. So he goes back to his cabin for one, and he sees that there was a little pond that was placed in the cabin. Good for him. So he can take a little, like, it's a fountain full of golden drachmas, which are necessary to make iris messages. So he makes a iris call to Tyson and to his mother.
I love Tyson so much. I talked about Tyson in the last book, but he's the best.
And Tyson says that Princess Andromeda is being protected by old spirits and that it is headed to the Panama Canal. So that's not good, because the Princess Andromeda is what houses Kronos, and so old spirits, even older than Poseidon, are actually protecting this boat.
Right. The Princess Andromeda, not the character from the Greek myth, but the Princess Andromeda is the name of the ship that Luke is on with the
from
pieces
the last
of Kronos.
book. And
they're going to the Panama Canal. Which, if you know anything about me, who built the Panama Canal?
Roosevelt.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
It's an inside. That's an inside thing, but
yeah, don't tell them why.
Yeah,
they don't deserve to know. Sorry, guys. He also calls his mom, and his mom has like a man friend over, and he's like, hello. And so she's like, Percy, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, no questions, because she dropped him off at Westover Hall, and mind you, he never went back with her. So she was just like, bye, guys.
See ya. Hope you don't die. I think there's a part of Sally Jackson that's resigned to the fact that Percy's probably not going to make it to 20, and she's just like,
She is so funny as a mother, because she does care about her son, but the problem is it doesn't seem like she cares about her son. So she's in a, quote, writing class with this man, and they're, quote, studying together. And by studying, I mean they're studying each other's lips with each other's lips. Mm-hmm. But Percy's kind of like, okay. And she's like, oh no, Annabeth. Yep.
Yeah. Everybody's just kind of like, oh, that's sad. And Percy's like, what is wrong with you?
Well,
people?
Percy doesn't tell Tyson because he knows how much he loves Annabeth.
Yeah, Tyson loves Annabeth. But literally, it's so funny. Percy's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, everyone is very much like, oh, that's sad. And Percy's like, I mean, it's a little bit more than just Aw, sad.
It's kind of devastating that everyone's resigned her fate to be that of there is no future for her.
I'm actually really, really upset by it.
And just so you guys know, Percy does not see Annabeth this entire book. Mm-hmm. Like, Annabeth is not in this book.
This is also why this book wasn't my favorite in the series
because
as a
you
kid,
love Annabeth.
Because I loved Annabeth. Like, I connected to her so hard when I was a kid.
So, Percy goes to bed, and he has a dream that Luke Castellan, which is Luke, the bad guy, tricks Annabeth into holding up a ceiling of a cavern. He later learns that this... Actually, I'm not going to spill that because that comes later. Mm-hmm. So that she's, like, being tricked into, like, holding up a ceiling. Percy tells Grover of this dream, only learn that the possibility that Annabeth actually considered joining the Hunters of Artemis in the past, and Percy feels some sort of way in his loins about it because he's like, wait, that means she'll have to, like, swear off men, and I'm a man.
But, like...
Come on.
But, like, what about me, though?
What about moi? And he's like, if I ever see Annabeth again, I'm going to tell her not to join them because I want to be with her, which I thought was really cute.
Mm-hmm. He's like, I might not tell her that I want to be with her, but I'm going to tell her that I don't want her to join.
Correct.
And I'm going to be really vague about why.
Yes. Yeah, don't
That's
join.
Really more like
That's
it.
No, don't do it. Ah. And Percy attempts to seek help from the Oracle because he wants a quest to go get Annabeth, but the Oracle doesn't respond. Then they have their capture the flag game, and it's a humiliating defeat. They get decimated. Mm-hmm. And Thalia blames it all on Percy, so they start to have like a little like demigod fight between each other.
Which was so stupid because honestly, like probably the reason they got decimated is one, the hunters are like hundreds of years old, some of them.
If not thousands.
If not thousands. Some of them are so old. And the other part of it is it's very heavily implied in the like in the Rick Riordan sort of...
In the Rickiverse,
but that... Or at least in this series, this is what I got out of it, was that part of the reason they lost so bad too was that Annabeth's not there. Yeah. Because Annabeth is the strategist, and she's always the one who's winning Capture the Flag.
And Thalia was trying to take over Annabeth's
role. But Thalia is cool, but she's not as smart as Annabeth.
No, she's more brash, like her father. Mm-hmm. So Percy and Thalia are about to come to arms. They're like, she pushes him into a lake, and that's his water, and then she like is about to blast him with a thunderbolt, and she like shocks him, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, and then shocks him again, and he's like, you're not fucking sorry because you did it again. And then they see the Oracle walking out of the shed towards Zoe, and it's apparently astounding because the Oracle has never left the attic of the big house ever. So this discussion is held.
So it's a very important prophecy, apparently.
So a discussion is held about who is going to go on the quest, and it comes to find out that, oh wait, we're about to get there, sorry. No, Bianca says that she had a dream about Artemis. Mm-hmm. About a dream about Artemis being in trouble or being kidnapped. Yeah. And so we think that now this quest has to do with saving Artemis. Mm-hmm. So... discussion is held about who's going to go on this quest, and it's decided that Zoe, Thalia, Bianca, Grover, and Phoebe would go. And I said to myself, who the fuck is Phoebe? Guess she's not actually going to go on the quest now, leaving Percy protesting because Zoe says that she won't take any man, and Grover's like, I'm a man. She's like, no, you're a satyr.
It doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Your penis is hidden behind your like furry goat legs, so I guess it's different.
I forget what the prophecy is. I'm Googling it real quick. Mm-hmm. Talk for a second.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool sort of detail. You're right. Even when as a kid, I was like, I don't get who fucking Phoebe is either, but okay, it doesn't really matter. But then again, that does kind of make sense because Zoe has her own life and her own relationships, so I guess it's just implied that, yeah. It's a separate group.
So 5 shall go west to the goddess in chains, 1 shall be lost to the land without rain. The band of Olympus shows the trail, campers and hunters combined prevail. The Titan's curse must one withstand, and 1 shall perish by a parent's hand. So it's saying that there has to be hunters, there has to be campers.
5.
And so
2 are going to die.
And basically 2 are going to die. which is the most morbid we've ever had at any one of these things. But they say something about the Titan's curse, but we don't actually find out what the Titan's curse is.
Well, also, I think that the people going on the quest of the 5 people, you'd think they'd be a little bit more hesitant because of what the prophecy implies, but it's like Percy, when he got his prophecy in the first book, it was like, you'll fail to save what matters most in the end, and the oracle's usually like so vague that it's not what you think it is. So
this one's pretty straightforward.
But it's actually pretty straightforward, this prophecy. So I think they're a little bit more optimistic that whatever that means, it might not mean that people are going to die. It might just mean, you know what I'm saying? But nope, no, they die.
Yeah.
2 people do in fact die.
So they decide, and Percy, they don't want to bring Percy because they know that he's going to turn it into an Annabeth, like, failed rescue mission. And so he's like, come on, guys. And they're like, no.
Guys, like, come on. I want to save my girlfriend.
And then Percy sends an Iris message. This is where he sends the message to his mom. Before it's just Tyson, now it's his mom. Mm-hmm. Sorry. So before the connection is cut off, when Mr. Blowfist, Paul Blowfist, her new boyfriend, but it's not revealed that they're dating.
I love Paul Blowfist, dude. Paul Blowfist is like an icon in this series. He's the best.
I'm excited for him to become more relevant. Mm-hmm. Basically, Sally's like, if you think it's best to go after Annabeth on a perilous mission and like almost die when the prophecy says that 2 people are definitely gonna die, you should definitely do it, son.
I love how Sally goes from being in the first book like this parent who's like so resistant to letting him go to camp, and she's like doing everything she can to keep Percy close to her, and like is
and then
so
it's like,
protective
go on.
like dies for him, like gets choked out by the Minotaur to save him, and she's like, okay, go off, son. She changes her tune. She's like, I got a boyfriend now, so you go ahead.
Oh my god. So later has another dream in which Artemis takes Annabeth's place in holding the ceiling to save her from a death. In the dream, he also hears about a general, and the general tells Luke to kill Annabeth, but Luke is like, no, can we like keep her alive a bit longer?
I love the Luke voice. I also thought of him as like a dude, bro.
The audiobook reader literally has him in a SoCal accent.
But that's kind of how I always thought he sounded, even when I would read I read the book, because I didn't listen to the books when I was a kid, and I always used to do Luke's voice when we would read it out loud as like, oh my god, Percy. Yeah, dude.
But we can kind of see that Luke he has some traces of himself, so obviously he's being manipulated in a far deeper way than we know right now, because he wants to save Annabeth ultimately.
Well, don't forget, Luke thinks what he's doing is good.
But I mean, there's some malicious force behind him. He's almost seems like he's under a Titan's curse. It seems like he's being manipulated on like a magical psychological level.
But what I like about the way Rick Riordan frames this conflict is, right, like people always say that the way you should write is that every character should think they're the main character. Mm-hmm. And what I appreciate too is that most people don't think they're bad guys. Like they don't think that their side is wrong. And Luke, when we find out that he's working for Kronos, makes it very clear, like, we know as a third party that he's clearly being influenced by evil magic.
Yeah.
But Luke himself thinks that what he's doing, being on Kronos' side, he doesn't think, mwahaha, I'm being evil.
No.
He thinks what he's doing is right, which I really like, especially...
Even though he's objectively helping out one of the most evil creatures known to mythology.
But in his mind, he thinks that the gods deserve it. Like, they're shitty parents. They don't deserve to be in charge. Like, I appreciate for a kid's book, which is pretty unique, that the way Rick Riordan frames this is that Luke sees what he's doing as justified.
Yeah.
Which is a very adult concept, because it could have been really easy for him to just be like, you know, this person's evil, that's it, kids will just get there's good and evil. But I like that he makes it a little bit more complex than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, you're fine. So that's where Percy wakes up. So now he knows Artemis is in trouble. Artemis and Annabeth are taken together at the same time for a nefarious purpose. Percy wakes up and finds Blackjack, a Pegasus, who in the audiobook...
Blackjack! He's the best!
In the audiobook, he goes, "Hi, boss!"
Hi, boss!
Hi, boss!
He's like fucking...
Can I get a carrot?
I love Blackjack, dude.
Blackjack asks him to rescue a marine cow-like creature called the Ophiuchorus. And so Percy rescues the creature. I forget how. Like, I genuinely just...
I don't remember either.
Anyway, he rescues the creature and names the creature Bessie, not knowing what it is, thinking it's a girl, and not knowing its true power. So, in Blackjack's words, it's an important thing that we make sure we save. Literally, that is how the audiobook guy does it. And it's
really funny.
I know. Every time Blackjack comes up, he's going to be like, hi, boss. And Percy's like, don't call me boss. And he's like, okay, boss.
But why can Percy ride a Pegasus, ride a horse, fly in the sky, and ride Blackjack? Why?
Well, the more striking thing is how he can communicate with them.
Well, remember he talked to the zebra in the first book?
Poseidon created horses.
Right.
So any descendant of horse, mythological or otherwise, he is able to communicate with. And that's also why Blackjack was in the last book too. Mm-hmm. And Blackjack is like, hi, boss. And so he sees Percy as kind of like the savior figure because Percy rescued Blackjack.
Mm-hmm. And so it's the only loophole that Percy has to flying. Because remember, Percy can't fly in the sky because that's Zeus's domain, and Zeus will strike him down. But the only way Percy can fly at all is on a Pegasus.
Correct. So, on his return from rescuing Bessie, moo.
She basically is a sea cow.
She is a marine cow-like creature.
A magical sea cow.
And every time they like pan to Bessie, and it's like Bessie says "moo." I'm like, dude, you didn't need to do that, but it's good.
But why not?
Why not? On his return, Percy finds Nico eavesdropping on the hunters, which now includes his sister. And using Annabeth's Yankee cap, he turns himself invisible and learns that Phoebe is bedridden due to a prank the Stoll brothers pulled.
Oh, the Stoll brothers.
Oh, the Stoll brothers.
Who are the Stoll brothers, Ronnie?
They're brothers.
They're twins. And they are the sons of Hermes.
Hermes, yes.
And they're pranksters. So the Stoll brothers become a little bit more relevant, but they're really beloved side characters in this series. They're basically Fred and George Weasley, but in this series. So he stops Nico, who's attempting to follow his sister on the quest, which Percy figures out after the conversation between the hunters. And Percy promises Nico that he would try to protect Bianca before taking off on Blackjack and following the group. And so at this point in the quest, they think that what's happening is it's now Phoebe, the quest person, is getting lost in the place without rain because the camp has like a magical protection around it where it doesn't always rain, it doesn't always snow, like it's very like it's a semi-permeable membrane really. So they're taking it as, oh, this is the land that doesn't rain, that way the part of the prophecy is fulfilled. Wrong. Wrong. Absolutely wrong.
So Percy and Blackjack fly over New York City, landing on top of the Chrysler Building. And Dionysus appears and confronts Percy for leaving camp without permission. And Dionysus talks like, Percy, what are you doing?
It's so funny because Mr. D in the first
I imagine
book,
him like, Percy, what are you doing?
Same. I literally picture him as like having this terrible smoker voice. Like he just is so resigned.
Like he couldn't get wine as his vice, so he's like, not Percy, what are you doing?
Yeah, I picture him being like, Percy. And it's so funny because at this point in the series, Percy's been at camp so long that like he doesn't give a fuck about Dionysus or his authority over the camp. And quite frankly, Mr. D doesn't really care either.
No.
He's like, what are you doing? It's more like this exhausted, exasperated thing. And Percy's like, oh, shove off. And he's like, fair enough. I mean,
that's literally the interaction. And then he decides to go, and Dionysus is like, well, I hope you're the one that dies on the quest. I'm like, dude.
I love Mr. D. He's such a dick.
Mr. Dick. After many, many hours of flying, or following the van containing the four, Percy and Blackjack stop at a museum. From a distance, Percy sees Dr. Thorne and hears him confirming that Annabeth is alive and that his dream had been true. And so he's able to get closer because he has the hat. So Dr. Thorne does not go into the museum with the rest of them and instead goes somewhere else where Percy follows with the cap. And he learns that there's the General and Luke that are working with the Titan Kronos and Dr. Thorne. The general creates skeletal
Oh my
warriors,
God, Toby.
which are almost impossible to destroy, by putting dinosaurs' teeth, dragon teeth, in actuality, into the soil and watering it with blood. How morbid. But it's a creature of the dead.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if Hades is involved somehow in that.
Interesting.
Because it's, you're using teeth and dragon's teeth and blood, and they're skeleton warriors. But anyway.
I don't think that Hades is involved from my memory.
But it uses Hades' type of magic.
But I do think that a reveal that's coming up later about people being related to Hades
is relevant
to why they're undead.
Yes. Their purpose is to kill Zoe and Bianca so they don't succeed at their quest. And I I want you to think for a hot second. The general is implied to be an immortal being. We don't know who it is yet. We don't find out until later. I knew pretty immediately what it was, who it was, and who is related to them. Because it's a kid's book. And I was like, this is way too convenient, because Zoe mentions this personal history with the general but refuses to go into it further. I'm like, oh, that's her daddy. Okay.
Yes.
And then, so I guessed that pretty early on. But I just want you to think, there's these old, immortal, all-powerful creatures and monsters who are calling on a barrage of undead soldiers in order to kill, like, some 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
They need undead, unkillable soldiers in order to try to apprehend and maybe kill literal children.
Yes. However, I will say what I love about this series is that Rick Riordan does a lot of really clever calls to actual Greek myths. And it sounds silly out of context, but when you think about it, right, like they explain even in the series, and if you know anything about Greek mythology, it's like the demigods are 99% of the time the heroes of every Greek story.
I know, it's just funny thinking that like a bunch of like old men are conniving to try to kill some kids.
I know, it's funny like when you say it like that, but it's interesting because it's a long history in Greek mythology that the demigods are actually like the biggest threat to all of these Greek monsters. And what I think is cool about this book too is it sets up more than the last two books, like the overarching plot of the series, which is essentially building up to a retelling of the Titanomachy. Right? So if Greek mythology, the Titanomachy is the story about how Zeus rescues all the gods, and then the gods and the Titans have this big war to decide the fate of the universe, and the gods win and banish the Titans into Tartarus. And it's implied that obviously, I mean, the book title's The Titan's Curse, and Kronos is the Titan. And so all the people who are on Kronos' side are basically going to be like Titan related, and then all the people on the god side are god related, and it's going to be basically the Titanomachy Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. But I think it's interesting. Yes, they want to kill these kids, but it's again this long history of Greek mythology that it shows you how dangerous the demigods actually are.
True.
Which says a lot, and Percy later in the series starts to realize this, that how first of all afraid, even though they don't really show it, like the gods are of demigods.
Actually, no, it's implied towards the end of this book.
Mm-hmm. Because the demigods can influence the world in the way that the gods and the Titans can't.
Correct.
Because they're part of both worlds.
Yes. So originally the skeletons are going to try to get Bianca and Zoe because they're kind of like the front leaders of this quest. But as the skeletons are running towards them, they get Percy's scent, and they grab his cloak sleeve or his sleeve, and they rip it off, which is marking him essentially as their target. So Percy quickly escapes using Annabeth's Yankees cap and notifies the others. Though the group is rather surprised and angry as they realize he has followed them, they are interrupted when the Nemean lion attacks.
Oh, by the way, I do think this is so funny in this book. What I remember really liking about this book is the fact that Percy's just kind of on his own. Like, he's just doing his own side quest. Like, everyone else is on this main quest.
And Percy's
including
just like...
Grover. And Percy's just like...
Annabeth!
Like, I'm gonna get my fucking Pegasus, and I'm gonna fucking knight hero, like fucking do this shit for my girlfriend, and I love it. It's so cute.
It's very adorable.
Yeah.
The Nemean lion attacks, and nothing is able to pierce its hide, much to the displeasure of the group. But Percy discovers a weakness and has an idea of how to expose it.
Now, what's the Nemean lion?
The Nemean lion is from the legend of Hercules. Mm-hmm. So that comes into it later. So it's a lion. It's a very powerful lion.
It's one of Hercules' tasks and
to kill the Nemean lion.
Hercules being Hercules or Heracles if you're going Greek, but we're going to say Hercules because that's just the common name. He ends up in the Greek myth strangling it because you can't kill it by stabbing it because of its hide, and then he skins it with its own claws and makes a nice pelt that he wears for himself.
So he discovers a weakness and has an idea of how to expose it, which is his mouth, right? He finds astronaut food in the gift shop and throws them into the Nemean lion's mouth.
That's so smart, because if anybody has been like
I was about to say, like, that would work. Trip. And they try the freeze-dried ice cream cones, and they're like, ah!
Literally, if anyone has ever been on a school field trip to, like, a museum, y'all fucking know that there is always goddamn astronaut food in the kitchen.
It's so bad. And so the Nemean lion opens his mouth long enough for Zoe to shoot an arrow at it. And then Zoe is like, you know what, you win. So she gives Percy the prize of the Nemean lion's pelt, saying he was the one who defeated the lion fair and square, even though she was the one who killed it with the arrow. Mm-hmm. And the pelt turns into a jacket as soon as he puts it on. So it's now like he's got a cool new fur jacket. Mm-hmm. Good for him. And it's also implied that Zoe has some sort of disdain towards the Nemean lion, which we'll get to why. Mm-hmm. The skeleton warriors, disguised by the mist as gray security men, are now following Percy, but Zoe refused to leave him behind as she realized that he is the 5th quest member, even though she was apprehensive to actually, like, agree with that before. Mm-hmm. They reach an area called the Sun West Line after taking many trains to lose their followers, so they're being tracked because now they have Percy's scent. There they meet a homeless person and share his fire, and they are oblivious to the fact that the homeless person is actually Apollo.
He shows up again.
Good for him. And we're actually about halfway finished.
Oh,
so I
okay.
feel like this is a good, because right now we're going into the junkyard of the gods.
Yes, the junkyard. That's a good scene.
So we'll break for right now. I got to put socks on because my tootsies are really cold. Okay. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. All right?
For seconds for you guys.
All right. Lucky you. All right. Bye.
Bye.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Okay, so where did we leave off now? So
the junkyard.
The junkyard of the gods. So Percy soon encounters Apollo again when they get on another train headed west. Apollo advises him to seek out Nereus. N-E-R-E-U-S. Nereus, the old man of the sea.
Okay. Nereus?
And this Nereus or whatever. But this Nereus, this is the chapter that's titled, like, I beat up a mole Santa.
Yeah. As always, the chapter titles are hilarious.
Rick is great at the chapter titles.
I beat up a mole Santa. That reminds me, my dad has a whole story about how my uncle, when they were in the military together, literally beat the shit out of a guy dressed as the Easter Bunny.
Oh.
So that always makes me laugh because it reminds me of that
I'm going to have to ask him about that.
It's not a long story. A guy came in dressed as the Easter Bunny into the barracks when everybody was stuck there over Easter, and he got mad, so he started beating him up. So imagine a big burly Marine beating up a poor sap dressed in an Easter Bunny costume.
Fabulous. Okay. So they need to find Nereus, the old man. I think
it's Nereus.
Whatever the fuck it is.
Nereus.
Nereus, the old man of the sea. And Percy has a dream where he's given the sword to Anaclosmus by a girl. Later, he realizes that the girl is Zoe. With help from Apollo, they reach a small town in New Mexico when they then try to take a break when Grover
Excuse me.
Bless you. Where they try to take a break when Grover's swoons because Pan, his like essence comes over him. After that, the skeleton warriors surround them using handguns, which feels a bit too modern.
I know. I didn't like that. I didn't like the handguns.
But Percy deflects a bullet.
Because, you know who said this? I think it was Kenny JD when she was doing, like, her review of the Wicked Passionflix movie. I love Kenny. She's so funny on YouTube. But she was like, at that point, when you're a magical being and you have a fucking gun, you're just a guy. Like, at that point, you're just a guy with a gun. You know? If you have a gun, you're not, like, a magical creature anymore.
You're a guy with a gun. Percy deflects the bullet with his coat because the lion's mane, it's like super reflective. No, it's like a bulletproof
Deflective.
vest. Deflective. And he cuts down a skeleton warrior with Riptide. It immediately forms back together, reassembling itself. Somehow, though, Bianca defeats a warrior, stabbing it right in the chest with her knife, blasting it to flames. This, however, does not stop another one from shooting at Percy. Miraculously, Percy survives and realizes that the Nemean lion pelt he wears is bulletproof. So he only comes to the conclusion that it's bulletproof after 2 bullets failed to penetrate it.
Oh, Percy, you fucking moron.
Oh, first time. Maybe that's just like a coinkydink, but the second time,
I mean, I figured out how to kill this thing because I remembered that its hide is impenetrable, yet I'm somehow shocked when the hide is impenetrable. Fucking idiot. Dumbass. I love Percy, but he's such a himbo sometimes.
And around here, he kind of realized that Ankylosimos, the name of the sword that like is given in the dream, that translates to Riptide in ancient Greek. So Riptide was given to a hero by Zoe in the distant past. And he's like, how old are you? And she's like, that's not nice to ask a lady. Thy cannot ask a lady how old thy age is. Which is stupid. Like, every other word out of her mouth is thy and thee. Grover senses Pan's presence again, along with a wild gift from him, the Arithmanthian boar. The giant boar defeats the skeletons for a time and carries them further into San Francisco. So they're just like riding a boar to San Fran. Iconic indeed. It takes them to the junkyard of the gods. Oh, we skipped over Nereus. Anyway, Nereus, the old man of the sea, whatever, Percy tackles him into the water and then he like defeats him.
That scene was so funny.
It was so funny, but this synopsis really brushed right over it. But he tackles him into the sea and he beats the shit out of him. And because of that, he has to answer a question.
I just pictured like a little dejected old man, like, what the fuck do you want?
I picture like a scrawny old, oh my gosh, I don't even remember maybe it's from Chowder. Like, an old man, scrawny, like,
he's very like Diogenes coded,
yes.
You know?
So, the boar takes them to the junkyard of the gods, where Percy meets Ares and talks to Aphrodite. So, Ares and Aphrodite's in a stretched limo, and she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen in his entire life.
Obviously, because fucking Aphrodite.
But it's funny because when people look at Aphrodite, they see, like, something different. So, he sees, like, his old first grade teacher he has a crush on, and then he sees a flash of gray eyes.
Which I loved that Aphrodite doesn't actually have a form, that she just looks like whatever you perceive as being a beautiful person.
That would be like a really bad sense of identity, though. If I was Aphrodite, I would never be like my true self in front of anyone because everyone sees me as differently. I don't know. She's a god, so she probably is over it by now.
Well, I'm sure maybe she has a form she prefers, but I do like that, at least in the eyes of mortals, that, first of all, that Rick doesn't buy into having her look the way he thinks a beautiful person looks. It's like, makes sense that when you look at her, you would just see what you think is a beautiful person, because beauty is very subjective.
Mm-hmm. And
it is kind of funny, though, that he's just casually in this limo with Aphrodite and Ares being like, hey, remember when I tried to start World War III in the first book? You know what I mean? Like, cash.
Dumbass.
We're not going to bring that up.
Aphrodite hints that Annabeth and Percy will most likely have a romantic future together, and she says that she likes Percy, so she'll make sure his love life is interesting. Eventually, the group enters the junkyard near Arizona, where Bianca tries to steal a mythomagic action figure for her younger brother. And it was warned by Nereus this old man of the sea not to take anything from the junkyard. And so Percy was like, don't take anything from the junkyard. And what does someone fucking do? They try to take something from the fucking
That's how
junkyard.
it always is. Don't touch anything. Somebody touches something. It's like, you know.
But because of this, she awakens the defective Talos monster. So it's an automaton, and Bianca has a plan to defeat it. She enters via a maintenance hole in its left foot to destroy him, and she succeeds in destroying the prototype Talos, but is electrocuted when Talos crashes into an electrical lines, causing him to short circuit and crash to the ground. After failing to find her, Grover announces that the next stage in the prophecy has been fulfilled. Bianca D'Angelo has died in the desert, the land without rain. But it never says in the prophecy that they die. They just say that they're lost. Mm-hmm. So I think she's going to come back. No?
No, she's dead. Yeah, she's dead. She's pretty
You're
dead.
not just gaslighting me?
No, I'm serious. She's dead.
Oh.
But think about where dead people go, and then we'll talk about in this world and also who her godparent is.
Yeah.
So she's fine.
Yeah. But she's
dead.
She's dead, but she comes back.
Well, you'll see. But she's dead.
She makes a recurrence.
Yeah, but she's dead.
Yeah. She died. That bitch fucking dead.
Which was really sad.
Yeah.
In the book. I remember being devastated as a kid.
I thought there was only one death in this book, and this was not actually a death. That's what I thought.
No, she's dead.
Because one death is very clearly a death.
No, this death is a death. She's dead. And I remember being so sad because I have a twin brother, and I don't know, I just like got really sad as a sister that I don't know, I related to that like the idea of like something happened to me and how devastated my brother would be like made me really, really sad.
Aww.
Yeah.
Moving on.
It's a sad death. It really is.
Now we're going to talk
Uncle
about...
Rick's got a body count.
Alrighty. Now we're talking about the Hoover Dam, which they reference a few times in the Percy Jackson musical.
Mm-hmm. I love Rick's sort of trek around the United States. Like, it's so funny how he incorporates Greek mythology into
how he incorporates
American history.
I like how he incorporates curse words into it too.
Yeah.
Because they're like, where are the damn snacks? I need to find the damn bathroom.
Yeah.
DAM.
I love that scene is so funny.
And Zoe is like, what art thou talking about? What is so funny that thee is...
Wherefore do you laugh?
Why for? So they find a truck in the junkyard, and Talia drives until they reach a river. There they find some canoes, and Percy convinces the group of naiads to steer them towards the Hoover Dam.
Naiads are like water sprites.
Water sprites and
water nymphs.
Mm-hmm. Percy, Thalia, and Grover begin spouting facts about the dam, indicating just how close their relationship is to Annabeth because the Hoover Dam is one of her favorite pieces of archaeological...
architecture. She wants to be an architect.
Architectural structures in the world. And they make some damn jokes.
As a kid, that scene, I remember being like laughing, like, thinking that was so funny.
Percy gets separated from the group when he hears and approaches the Ophiutorus, Bessie. The 11 remaining skeletal warriors attack him, and he tries to escape, ends up on a tour elevator, and he goes down, and he joins the tour, and he's like, is this the way to the concession stand? And everyone in the elevator is like, ha, 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 and the Lyft driver's like, no.
He's like, shut the fuck up, kid.
She is. The group leader... leaves the elevator. Percy is alone with the tour guide and is cryptically stating that there's a way out for those who can find it. And he looks back at her and he's like, oh, she has gray eyes. Fuck! I just met my future in-law. And I told Rory about this because I thought it was funny because there's so many rules about the gods not interceding on quests of the non-gods, and no one fucking cares.
No, they do it all the time.
No one fucking cares.
Yeah, they don't listen to any of their own rules. But they're gods, why would they?
It surprises me later that they care enough to intercede, but they don't care enough to, like, support the person.
Well, that's the thing, right, about them being gods, is it's like, you see this in Greek mythology as well, that the gods intercede for their own vanity, really. It's like...
Well, what was the vanity here?
It's
In this case, it was for her daughter.
Well, their kids are representatives of them. So if your kid succeeds in a quest, that's like, says that's on you. Do you know what I mean?
So she is interceding because of Annabeth.
I think it's like implied that some of the gods maybe care about some of their kids as much as they can, even though, you know what I'm saying? But I think that
that's their deadly fault, though.
I think Rick has a very cynical view of the gods, and so does Percy by the end of the series, that they really can only love their children so much because they're immortal, selfish assholes. Like, if they love their kids, it's not like normal people love their kids. No. And their concern over whether their children succeed in their quests is about their own vanity. That, like, my kid succeeded and did a big, brave thing. Do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they explain it in the Percy Jackson TV show, actually, that, like, this is the one thing they explained really well in the show, as opposed to the book, that the thing that the demigods covet above all else is glory.
Yeah.
And that their glory is reflective on their parents. Like, it's like you earn glory to honor the gods, or to honor your god parent. So the gods intercede, I think, first of all, because they're either bored, and if you're like an immortal, all-powerful being, like, why wouldn't you? Just, you know, because it's entertaining, and also, again, for your own glorification. So these books really don't have, like, a favorable view of how the gods view their own children.
It's kind of ironic, though, because at the end, Athena, we'll get to it, talks to Percy about his faults and, like, what his falling is. Like, Annabeth said that her folly is pride. Mm-hmm. But it feels like the gods' folly is their arrogance, almost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But they won't, even Athena, strategist, won't admit that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you know.
Well, that even somebody as smart as Athena can't escape the fact that she's a god.
Got a fault.
Yeah, that she's a god, and that's her fault. But I do love that Athena appears to him as a tour guide. Like, that's really funny.
Yeah, because she's smart. As Athena leaves and Percy dashes behind a wall to hide from the skeletons, he hears a noise behind him and thinks it's a skeleton, blindly slashes a mortal girl who can see through the mist named Rachel Elizabeth Dare.
Oh, Rachel! I forgot this is the first book Rachel shows up in. Rachel becomes really important.
I was literally just going to say, I think she becomes really important.
Yes, she does.
Because she can see through the mist, which no humans should be able to. Mm-hmm. Or she's immortal, obviously, because...
Yeah, she's not a half-blood.
Riptide slashes through her, and Riptide cannot kill mortals, only half-bloods and immortals. Mm-hmm. So we know right off the bat she is 100% mortal, but we know that she has some sort of power, so she can see... This is going to be a stretch. Mm-hmm. She can see through the mist, which is lies. She can see through lies, which means she sees the truth. I think that she's an oracle.
It's a good guess.
So... But because she's mortal, it passes through her. She saves Percy by confusing the skeletons, allowing Percy to escape his friends. And the group is trapped on the dam, but are saved when the giant metal angel statues given to Zeus by Athena carry them off after Thalia prays to her father. So Thalia's like, Dad, I know you haven't helped me at all in my miserable life, but I need you to help me right now. And the statues jump to life. They're like, oh!
Anything for you.
Anything for you.
Except when it's inconvenient for me.
Oh, shit. Neru's now. Oh, fuck. I forgot. All right.
It's okay. Say what you gotta say.
I was wrong.
What?
Now they're in San Francisco, and Percy wrestles Neru's, the old man of the sea.
So this happens after the dam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fuck. Anyway, Neru says that the Ophiutorus Bessie is the mythical animal that Artemis is trying to seek out, because that's the one that could change the tide of the war. So we immediately know that Percy saved this incredibly powerful animal that could essentially, like, I think it's like the divine sacrifice, really. Mm-hmm. Is that what it is? The Ophiutorus?
I don't remember, but it's impressive that he catches it because Artemis is the huntress and she's been trying to catch it and she hasn't been able to.
Burning its entrails will give the person the power to destroy Olympus. That's what it is, actually. Dr. Thorne appears with a small force of mortals, and he tries to convince Thalia to wield the Ophius Taurus's power, and Percy manages to shake her out of her stupor. As they are cornered, they manage to get the iris message to Half-Blood and see Dionysus, the camp director. He saves them after Percy reluctantly asks for help, and Grover takes the Ophia Taurus back to Long Island with Poseidon's help after Percy sacrifices the lion pelt to
Yes,
Poseidon.
because Camp Half-Blood is on Long Island, baby. We love Long Island.
Long Island.
Long Island.
So now we're actually in the last little part of the synopsis.
Which, something about Dionysus, or Dionysus, however you want to say it. I call him Mr. D. But the thing about Mr. D that's really interesting is they hint at in this book is his sort of background. That one of my favorite myths in Greek mythology is Theseus and the Minotaur. Mm-hmm. I love Theseus and the Minotaur. It's probably my favorite, which is why I like Battle of the Labyrinth so much. And at the end of Theseus and the Minotaur, Theseus leaves his girlfriend Ariadne on an island.
And that's
and
Dionysus.
Dionysus saves her and marries her, and she becomes an immortal. Mm-hmm. And I love that they hint at that he does have like a softer side. He's just this very like,
bitter drunk
because he's been forced, because he's being punished, but actually he has a very loving relationship with his wife.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Dionysus. So they go on to see Annabeth's father, Dr. Chase, and ask for help. And I liked this scene because it shows that, like, as much as Annabeth doesn't get along with her parents, they do try to care. But I feel like Mr. Chase is very autism coded. Mm-hmm. Where he's, like, so into his hyperfixations. And then, like, he's like, oh, shit, yeah, we're talking about my daughter who's lost. Sorry.
Well, that makes sense because, they make clear that Athena's relationships with mortals are ones of the mind. Mm-hmm. That it's not like the male gods like Zeus or whatever, where the relationship is very, like, implied sexual and, like, desirous, that her
Percy can see how Athena is attracted to Annabeth's father.
Well, and even then, her attraction isn't even like what we would think of as just regular old attraction.
What's it called where someone's attracted to...
Sapiosexuals.
Athena's a sapiosexual canon.
Yes.
So, he eventually lends them their car, and before they leave, Percy makes a promise to call Mrs. Chase to tell Annabeth that she still had Mrs. Chase that Annabeth still has a home there. As they drive up the mountain, the car explodes due to a lightning bolt that Kronos threw to make Thalia angry at her father. So she thinks it was her father who did it, and she's like, oh my gosh, one will perish at their parents' hand. It's going to be me. And
which, so dumb, because why would he do that?
No.
Idiot.
They complete the rest of the climb on foot to the garden of Hesperides, where Zoe meets her sisters and is poisoned by the dragon Ladon. Because we find out that Zoe is actually a creature from mythology. Mm-hmm. She is years and years and years and years and years ago. So she is actually like an immortal being, aside from the fact that she's an immortal being. There were 5...
She was immortal before she became a hunter.
Correct. So there were 5 sisters, but since Zoe turned her back and like helped the hero Heracles, they kind of cast her out, and they're like, we don't see a sister, we see a traitor. So the myth is that there's only 4 of them, but really there's 5, and Zoe was the one who was ostracized. Mm-hmm. And Zoe's poisoned by the dragon Ladon. They continue to the place where Atlas used to hold up the sky, which they find out.
Yeah, that in Greek mythology, Atlas, who's a Titan, was punished by the gods, and his punishment is to hold up the world for all of eternity. Mm-hmm. To hold up the sky, or hold up the heavens, or something like that.
So they managed to... Atlas... I don't think...
And for a time in Greek mythology, Hercules or Heracles holds up the sky for Atlas so Atlas can go get this golden apple in this garden that's being guarded by that dragon.
Laden.
So in Greek mythology, Atlas gets the apple for Heracles from the garden that's being guarded by a dragon. So Heracles holds up the world for a few minutes, and then when Atlas comes back, he tricks Atlas. He has to trick Atlas into coming back and holding the world up again.
Because Atlas does not want to hold up the world.
No, who wants to do that? It's his punishment. It's heavy and it sucks, you know?
Yeah. So this is the kind of place where we realize, oh, Atlas is actually the general. So we know the general is Atlas.
Which is why Annabeth and Artemis are holding up the heavy thing.
Yes. So they go up all the way to the mountain with, so it's now Percy, it is Thalia, and Zoe. They get up to the top and they see Artemis holding the sky. Because remember, Annabeth was holding it, and now Annabeth has a streak of gray in her hair. So she was holding up the sky. Now Artemis took the burden from her. Then Percy sees Annabeth is bound and gagged by Luke, and it's really sad because he really cares about her. And I think this book was necessary for them to be apart so he could actually realize how much she means to him on a romantic level.
And how much she does for him.
But the thing is, I like how he can still survive without her because it doesn't make it look like it's a dependency relationship. It makes it look like they balance each other out. Mm-hmm. Like
they're better as a team.
Correct.
They're both capable without each other, but they're better as a team.
Correct. And I like that. So he realizes that the prophecy made by the oracle involving him has to involve him more, and Percy takes the burden of the Titan's curse from Artemis, which is holding up the sky. In the ensuing fight, Percy can see the ruins of Mount Orpheus, the rival capital of Mount Olympus, rebuilding itself. And Mount Orpheus is the one that the Titans kind of inhabited, right? Mm-hmm. So this only means that the Titans' chance of triumph are increasing. And while Atlas and Zoe are fighting, we kind of realize, oh shit, Atlas is Zoe's father.
So Zoe isn't a demigod, she's a demi-titan.
She's a demi-titan. And we realize, oh shit, there's another parent who's involved. Mm-hmm. Great. And he kills his daughter by throwing her against the rocks, and she was already poisoned by the big dragon. Mm-hmm. Remember, because she got a slash and they ran away. But Artemis is able to kick Atlas back towards Percy, and only the Titan can be forced to bear. Only the Titan can bear the weight of the sky unless a heroic person takes that place. So it was Annabeth who was being heroic because she thought she was helping out Luke. Then it was Artemis who was being heroic because she was helping out Annabeth. Then it was Percy who was helping Artemis because Artemis needed to be used in the final fight because of her skills. And so now the Titan's curse is back under Atlas, because as Artemis kind of pushes Atlas towards Percy, he kind of like drops the sky and rolls right as Atlas is right near him, so it falls on his back and he has to like lift up the world again.
He has to take on his curse once again.
Yes. And he struggles to his knees, pinning him to the ground in the battle. And Thalia and Luke are fighting too, and Luke falls into a chasm, but they're trying. Annabeth is like, no, don't do it. And meanwhile, Percy's like, Annabeth, I don't like that you still like him.
Which is so cute, but at the same time, it's like,
time and a place.
Percy, time and a place. And also, she doesn't just care about Luke because of her stupid little crush on him. Like,
which she doesn't have anymore.
Like, they went through some shit, and she's just hoping she doesn't want him to still be evil. And honestly, what was really emotional was the fight with Thalia, that Luke and Thalia are fighting, because they even more so went through some shit together. And from Luke's perspective, Thalia has more of a reason to be on his side than anyone.
Than Percy, yeah.
Because she got fucked over the most. Like, she literally died. and the most her dad could do for her was turn her into a fucking tree and like leave her to just grow in a field.
She was also the protection around Camp Half-Blood.
Yeah, but come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, from Luke's perspective, he would think, based on what him and Thalia went through together and what happened to her, that she would have a reason to hate the gods just as much as he does.
Yeah.
But she doesn't.
She doesn't, which is good on her part, because she can see logic, and Luke, it shows you how dissuaded Luke is by his emotions. So Luke falls into a chasm. Percy assumes that Luke is dead, but we'll get to it later.
Yeah, of course he's not
Before
dead.
leaving Mount Tam, Artemis turns Zoe into a constellation, one of the sweetest death scenes I think I've ever read.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And especially because in Greek mythology, getting turned into a constellation is like a huge honor. Big deal.
I wonder if she's... Oh, yeah, it is. The Huntress. The Huntress is a real constellation. So I like how Rick played into, like, actual constellations and, like... But before she dies, she tells Percy that he is not Heracles and he deserves to have the sword because she got ostracized from her family for giving him the sword and, like, helping out a hero. And so she confirms that... Because now... Zoe had said, like, oh, all of your kind aspire to be like him, but he's not someone that you should aspire to be like. And towards the end, she definitely is like, no, Percy, you're better than Heracles. So it gives him some closure. Because during this, he was, like, kind of thinking, like, am I like Hercules? Am I like a betrayer? Am I going to whatever? But it was really sweet.
And also, I think that people forget, too, that Heracles... does all these tasks, you know, that are seen as so heroic, but he was atoning for murdering his whole family.
Yeah.
Like, they were tasks of atonement. And yeah, he achieves immortality by the end, but that's because he suffers so bad through all of his tasks.
Which, yeah, does something. I feel like by the end of this series, Percy's going to be offered immortality because of all the trials he went through, but I'm going to think that he doesn't decide to do it.
That's interesting.
They go to Mount Olympus via Blackjack and his Pegasi friend.
Yes, Blackjack.
When Percy, Thalia, and Annabeth arrive, the gods have already started the meeting, and Thalia chooses to take Zoe's place as the Huntress's lieutenant for her to never turn 16, because the next day after the winter solstice is supposed to be her birthday, where the prophecy is coming to fruition, and she's like...
So she's taking herself out of the equation.
She's like, I've had so much of my life taken from me, I won't let a prophecy rule my life now that I have it back, finally. Which is a really good moment for her.
She deserves it, but basically she gives Percy no choice but to be the chosen one, because she won't be.
So do we think. Well, yeah. Percy also doesn't mind. Percy's very... He's
so resigned. He's like, listen, bitch, if I gotta die, I gotta die.
He's like, I already knew it. So she agrees to become a lieutenant while the gods are kind of voting what to do with them, because now everyone's like, oh, they're dangerous. Like, they were able to do this. They were able to trick Atlas. They were able to, like, essentially incapacitate the general. They were able to do this and this and this. So they're trying to figure out what the fuck's gonna happen. And Artemis is like, well, here's my boon. My boon is that they're going to live because I bless them. And the gods still have to...
They saved my ass, so...
The gods still have to put it to a vote, though. So Athena, ever the strategist, she's like, well, they are dangerous, and I don't think we should underestimate them. She doesn't say what she wants to happen to them, but she definitely says they should not be... Like, you need to consider that they are very extremely dangerous and volatile before you move any further. Which... Okay, bitch. Even though you helped them out along the way to achieve their quest, and now that, like, they reached the end, she could have let him die. But instead she was, like, waiting for him to be killed later. But she never puts in her 2 cents, really. And she even says, like, oh, this himbo, referring to Ares, like, has a point. Like, they're dangerous. But eventually, even though Athena puts in her recommendation... They do not kill them. So that's great for Percy. And they have a massive party. But not before they finally... When they have the final vote, they were talking about, like, oh, well, one of them is about to turn 16 tomorrow. So that's the prophecy. So that's when Thalia removes herself from the equation. And Percy knew that Artemis was going to ask someone to become in her league, and he tried to tell Annabeth, no, don't do it. But then he was lucky that it wasn't. He was happy it wasn't Annabeth, which is, again, come on, gay, not gay, straight. I'm so used to saying gay. And Poseidon vouches for his son. He actually says, like, on my honor, on my life, my son will not be the cause of this. He's kind of right. And then they're like, what are we going to do with the Ophiuchorus? We have to destroy it ourselves so that way Olympus cannot crumble. And Poseidon's like, nah, I'll just build an aquarium.
It's a sea creature. I'll take care of it.
He was originally like, I'm going to keep it protected under the sea. And Zeus is like, I don't want you having that leverage over me. He's like, dude, what the fuck?
Zeus is such an insecure little bitch. Like, it's so funny because Poseidon, genuinely, you get the vibe from him that he's like, dude, I just want to live in the ocean. I don't want to beef with you, motherfucker. Like, Zeus is always the instigator in their problems.
Yeah. Then they have a massive party to celebrate. Why? They just wanted to almost kill them. Okay, I see.
Just because they're gods.
And the muses play some bopping tunes, and for everyone it's different. So for the gods, it's like classical, and for the young kids, it's hip hop. But for Percy, when he finally gets to dance with Annabeth, it's a slow dance.
Aww.
So, but right before this, basically Athena said to him, "Stay away from my daughter."
Yeah, well, because her and Poseidon hate each other.
Which really took the wind out of his sail.
He's like, oh.
Because he was gonna, like, make a move.
Yeah.
And, can't do that now that mommy said no. His, what is it? That's his cousin.
Not really. I mean,
Distantly related.
I guess so, but again, they kind of explain that the way it works with the gods is weird. And also, Annabeth, like, Athena doesn't birth her children. They're, like, born from her mind. Like I said, it's a mating of minds. Like, Athena's children are weird. They have weird birth origins. Like, they're not really...
Either way, they're first cousins once removed.
Are they? No, because Athena is technically Zeus's daughter, although she was born from Zeus's brain, and Zeus and Poseidon are brothers.
So Percy and Athena are first cousins.
Yes.
And then, so your first cousin's child...
Is a first cousin once removed? Is
I
that how it
believe
works?
so.
Okay.
Let me Google it. Talk for a second.
Whatever. Oh, did we get to who the
No.
D'Angelo's father is?
No, that's coming up next.
Okay.
Talk for a second.
I don't... Okay, well, Rick explains later on that how the whole relationships between campers works and why
First cousin once removed.
Yeah, and why it's not incest.
I don't really buy it, but first cousin once removed. I was fucking
You know what?
right.
I don't care.
I was fucking right. Anyway.
I think it's cute.
So after
anyway.
partying with the gods, and after Percy gets the wind out of his sails, and after Percy and Annabeth finally have their dance from the beginning, he's like, I think we owe a beginning. Percy returns at Camp Half-Blood, and he realizes that no one told Nico about his sister because they were waiting for Percy to come back, which fucking cowards.
Yeah.
Cowards.
I know. Leaving Percy to clean up your mess again. Like, Jesus, this kid has
They
done
literally
so
are
much.
like, we're not going to tell Nico that his sister died. Instead, we're going to wait for Percy to come back from the quest and say it. So that way, Nico now holds a resentment towards Percy.
Even though it's so not Percy's
It's
fault.
So, look, that's the one part about this book. It's so contrived.
Yes, there are parts of it that are, yeah.
It is so badly done, I think, because really he has no reason to hate Percy, because if he just listened to Percy, he would have said, like, it wasn't even Percy's quest.
It wasn't, yeah, if anyone blames Zoe, she's the one who took Bianca with her, and Zoe's dead now, so...
Yeah, so it was kind of ridiculous. So Nico is
and
given...
Percy said don't take anything from the junkyard, so...
Yeah, and so Percy gives him the statuette that was left, and by Bianca, and Nico throws it, and he's like, I don't want this shit! My sister is killed now! And so then 4 of the skeleton warriors come by, and Percy's like, run! And he's like, no, I don't trust you! I'm like, you should better fucking trust him with that one. Like, run? Mm-hmm. You won't trust him to run?
Which also begs the question, aren't they at Camp Half-Blood? Why are these skeleton warriors able to be at Camp Half-Blood?
Because the wards are starting to fail.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
So Nico unintentionally splits the earth to swallow them up.
And why is that, Ronnie?
Because as Nico runs away from Percy, he looks at the figurine on the ground, and the last figurine that he hadn't collected, he realizes, is Hades. So, you may be wondering, I thought the gods had a pact. They did.
Two of them already broke it.
Two of them broke it in real time, IRL.
Yeah.
But we find out through Bianca while they're on the quest, and I didn't like brush over this because it wasn't in the synopsis, but I knew it was going to come back. So we find out that Bianca and Nico were staying at this hotel for a while, and we get sort of like glimpses that they're old because Bianca was like, oh, I remember when they just put in the DC subway system, and everyone looks at her like, what?
What the fuck? Yeah.
Like, excuse you. And at that point I was like, oh, she was at the Lotus Hotel.
Right, which the Lotus Casino Hotel is from the first book. And
I wonder if we met them while they were in the Lotus Casino Hotel.
No, that was a joke when the Percy Jackson TV show came out. People were like joking, "Where are our little Italians?" Like they're looking in the background for two little Italian kids as like an Easter egg.
That would be cool though.
I know, but nobody could find them. But there's a scene where people swear they heard someone like yell Bianca like in the background.
That would be good.
I don't think that's true, but people like swear that they heard it. But yeah, the Lotus Casino Hotel's from the first book, and as we both know, time works weird there, right? Like Percy meets that kid from the 70s. Like you don't age while you're in there. Mm-hmm. You don't know how fast time is passing. You could be in there for like an hour, and maybe you were in there for a month.
Yeah, the implication is that someone wanted to use one of the D'Angelo kids as the prophecy, so right when the prophecy was instated, or right before it was instated, maybe like right around the World War II, because that's when the
They make the pact after World War II.
So during World War II, I believe, the D'Angelo kids are brought to the Lotus Casino Hotel and kept there. So Hades never broke his pact because he conceived and birthed those two before the pact was even instated.
Exactly, because Hades is what? The real one. Hades is my favorite god in the Greek canon, because that man, love him. He didn't break his pact. He's just chilling in the underworld, doing his thing.
And it was actually funny because...
faithful to his wife. Love Hades.
While they were... at Mount Olympus, someone made a comment like, "Oh yeah,
in Greek
Hades."
Mythology, he's faithful to his wife. Sorry,
Hades is the only one that like didn't break the pact, and I'm like, no, he didn't. He genuinely did not break the pact. It was just that his kids were kept as a bargaining chip, as a last result.
Yeah, so they were born before, so
they were only brought out by a lawyer. Quote, which is so weird. I don't know who that would be, but they were brought out by a lawyer recently and brought to. Wester whatever hall. Mm-hmm. I keep wanting to say Westerberg, but that's not it because Westerberg is the high school from Heathers. But at Westbury, I think. So we know that Nico and Bianca are now the children of Hades. So what does that mean?
One of them could have theoretically fulfilled the prophecy, but Bianca's dead now, and either way, she was an Artemis hunter, so it can't be her. And so Nico
is now the other option, but Percy tells Annabeth, and Grover and Annabeth is like, oh no, he got away, like what are we gonna do? And he's like, no, it's not his prophecy, I take this burden on myself. So he's claiming the prophecy, and I don't know if that can work, but he's trying to make it work.
Well, also Percy's older than Nico. I mean, not really, I know Nico was born in like the 1930s, but
chronologically
in terms of like
physical age.
Physical age. Nico's what, like 13? Percy's like 14.
No, Nico's like 12.
Nico's like, okay, so either way, Percy's like very close to being 16 comparatively. So I also think though that Percy's resigned, like he just feels it in his bones that the prophecy
I also think he doesn't
his.
Want this burden to be on a child. Mm-hmm. He knows what the burden is like on him. Why would he want someone else to have that on him?
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Percy is definitely a hero. He really does embody the Greek hero like ethos, you know.
Yeah. So Grover arrives while Percy and Annabeth are talking, and Percy considers telling Chiron and those guys, but then it's like, fuck them, no. I'm not telling them.
Fuck those guys. They keep being pieces of shit. Like we keep trusting them, and they keep not giving a shit.
So Grover arrives, claiming that while drinking a shit ton of coffee, he heard Pan's voice speak 3 words in his head: "I await you."
And that's Yay! Grover's gonna find Pan. Woo-hoo! We love that for Grover.
Good for Grover. And that's the end of the book. I really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I finished it really quickly, and I did it all on audiobook. And so I'm probably gonna start the Curse of the
Battle of the Labyrinth. Yeah, I'm very excited for you to do Battle of the Labyrinth because I love Battle of the Labyrinth. I love the mythology references. I love the labyrinth as a concept. I've said I love Theseus and the Minotaur because I love the idea of the labyrinth. I love what they find in the labyrinth, and we're back to the original trio in Battle of the Labyrinth.
Exciting.
We're back to Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, baby, which is the golden three. I like when Rick introduces new characters, and I like that he did something different with the last two books, with having like a core member of the cast be absent for.
But for the rest, it's the core three.
But in Battle of the Labyrinth, from my recollection, we're back to Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, which I prefer because
I'm excited for the tension.
Yeah, and by book 5,
and Annabeth says that she's going to try out San Francisco again. Mm-hmm.
She's going to go back to her parents or her dad's house.
Yeah, so
I'm very excited for you to read it because I love Battle of the Labyrinth. It's a really good one.
Well,
any final thoughts?
It was just a very good book. The one thing that I thought was really shit was the contrived ending where Nico's now supposedly like a bad guy.
He gets over it though. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. He's a child. He's probably just having emotional outbursts. But that was really the only thing. I thought I said all my thoughts as they came about, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad. I love this book series. It's such a good kids series, and I love how Rick incorporates the mythology into the story. And for us as adults, because we know Greek mythology, some things might be spoilers or we can predict what's coming. But remember like reading this as like a 9-year-old, if you're not, if you're 9 and you're not like well versed in Greek mythology, a lot of the plot points that come up you wouldn't predict. You would be like, "Whoa, that's so cool!"
Oh yeah, I can imagine like having a totally different outlook if I read this as a child.
Mm-hmm. So I loved it. I think it's great.
All right, well, this has been Have and Have Not.
I'm Rory,
and I'm Roni,
and we'll see you next time.
And I have not read.
And I have read
Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. And I have not until now.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time with the Battle of the Labyrinth.
Bye.
Bye.